Hello again, everybody. I'm Chris Mooneyham, and welcome to the TCA All Sports Report. As always, brought to you by Fox 5 Atlanta, 680 The Fan, and of course, the Touchdown Club of Atlanta. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We are now firmly entrenched in April, the second week of April. As a matter of fact, tax day is rolling around. Hope you got that taken care of. And of course, with tax day now over the last few years, professional sports starting to make a swing. The NBA at the end of its regular season. The Hawks, as a matter of fact, at press time, just got their 60th win of the year. The Braves are 4-0 as I'm cutting the All Sports Report this morning, Saturday the 11th. What else? Well, how about this? A little tidbit for you for those of you who follow college football, high school football, and the All Sports Report every week. Figured I'd throw this little tidbit out there to you. Last week we reported on Jacob Eason, the number one player in America, most likely for 2016, quarterback out of Washington State. He is at least the number one quarterback for 2016, and we'll see if he's passed for the number one slot as the overall player. But as we reported here last week via other media sources, Eason was in Athens this past week and was not going to be able to stay for the G-Day game that's taking place this very weekend because he was supposedly had a previous engagement with his high school teammates and was going to be playing on one of these now really active 7-on-7 tournaments, passing camps. Well, now there's a rumor that he's actually going to visit UCLA instead. So everybody panic in Athens. Everybody freak out. Eason may not be coming to Georgia. No. Don't worry. This kid's the number one player in America for a reason. He deserves to visit just as many universities as possible. And again, the word is he still is absolutely in love with the University of Georgia. Go online if you haven't already, if you've had a busy week this week. Go online and search some of there's just a myriad of social media pictures out there involving Jacob Eason and, for lack of a better phrase, a lot of high-level recruits that the Bulldogs brought in this past week to visit with Eason. Very strategic, the guys that Mark Richt and his crew brought into Athens this week to visit with Jacob Eason. Okay, I digress. I just figured I'd throw that out there because it doesn't really fit into a segment this week, although we do have a very big show. And let's get right into it with our opening segment that we like to call What's Happening. Well, this week's TCA All Sports Report really is all about good deeds, all about rewarding youngsters through high school athletics who are contributing to their community. And I don't necessarily mean by hitting, 10 home runs and 50 RBIs in a high school baseball season or scoring 35 touchdowns in a high school football season. Obviously, part of what is the focal point of the Touchdown Club of Atlanta is honoring these young athletes for their impact, not just on the fields or the courts or the mats, but also in their communities. And really that is the backbone of what the All Sports Report, the TCA is about, the National Football Foundation, and of course many of the programs that the Touchdown Club works with, which we'll talk about in a few moments in the What's Next portion of our program. It is award season for the Positive Athlete Georgia organization, a really fine organization that we've been proud to work with over the last couple of years. In that same vein, as we talk about what's happening this week, it's not necessarily this week. Coming up in a couple of weeks, every year in conjunction with the Georgia High School Association, senior student athletes and student managers are nominated by head football coaches across the state of Georgia for the George Morris Scholar Athlete Scholarship Award and the Whitey Zimmerman Scholar Student Manager Scholarship. This is through the Touchdown Club of Atlanta. The nominated students submit applications and are then reviewed by the region secretary of the Touchdown Club, NFF, and the semifinalists are forwarded for nomination and award. Final determination of the winners is made by that committee of the Touchdown Club of Atlanta and the NFF chapter board. College athletic staff members also vote on this. Local sports media, TCA, NFF chapter members. The final decisions are made based on an overall profile of athletics, which is 40%, academics, which is 40%, and community service, which is another 20%. Each winner receives a $1,000 scholarship to further their education in college, and the top overall winner receives a $2,000 scholarship. It is award season once again, once the spring rolls around every year. So the reason I bring this up is because this is the process for the Touchdown Club of Atlanta's 2015 Scholarship Award Banquet, and tickets are still available. It's April 26th at the CNN Omni Hotel downtown. The ceremony begins at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. Individual tickets $80, or you can purchase a table of 10, which is actually far more popular than you would really believe. So many organizations, so many businesses will go in and buy these mass tables, and it really becomes a community event. I implore you to come on down, to go ahead and get your tickets today. Come on down for the event. The keynote speaker this year will be Lee Corso from ESPN's College Game Day. The Sunshine Schooner himself will be on site. Of course, former gridiron legend from Florida State back in the 1950s. He, not a lot of people realize, and I just got to throw this in here off the cuff, Corso, a Distinguished American Award winner. I digress. Tickets, again, available, $80 individually, $75 per ticket if you buy a table of 10. Tickets can be ordered online right here at, I say right here, you could be watching us anywhere, but at touchdownclubofatlanta.com, touchdownclubofatlanta.com. If you have questions about the event, you can contact Diane Bloodworth at 404-272-0231. That's Diane Bloodworth at 404-272-0231, or at D Bloodworth, typical spelling, blood, B-L-O-O-D, W-O-R-T-H, Diane Bloodworth at competitive sportsanalysis.com. Of course, if you didn't catch any of that, just go to the Touchdown Club of Atlanta's website. There's a big banner there on the front page of the website. Really great cause that we're honored to put together every year at the Touchdown Club, and we would love for you to be a part of it. Coming up next, in the Ever Wonder portion of our program, time to take a look at one of the really underrated stories in the history of Georgia State athletics. One of the great segments that we've had all year, one of the great series we've had all year in this particular segment, the Ever Wonder portion of our program, which Brad Walsh, our resident historian at the TCA, feeds us information every week. And one of the great series that he's put together this year is great programs in particular years that have three great athletes that are honored in that given season by the TCA. It's actually happened very few times in the history, the long history of the Touchdown Club of Atlanta, remembering that the Touchdown Club was founded in 1938. And from what Brad tells us, in this series, there have been very few times where a particular team in a fall has had three young men honored by the Touchdown Club of Atlanta, three separate young men. For this week's segment, we go all the way back to 1995, a team I know very well. In fact, I would venture to say there are very few media members in this town, in this state, that have covered Parkview as much as I have. On a personal note, my broadcasting career was burgeoning at the same time that the Parkview dynasty was born. In fact, before I go any further into Brad's report, I'm going to give you some numbers that'll help to put Brad's report in perspective, I think, because part of what makes this team so special, the 1995 Parkview Panthers team, so special, is that not just were three of those young men honored that year, but it was the beginning of one of the great dynasty runs in this state's history. From 1995 through 2005, again, just some numbers that I put together in my years in covering Parkview high school football. From 95 through 05, 11 years. Parkview compiled a record of 136 and 19. 136 and 19. Don't bother doing the math. It's a little over 12 wins per year. And in that 11-year span, 6 state championship game appearances. 6 state championship game appearances where they would go 4-2, by the way, 4-2. And in one stretch from the early 90s, mid-90s, through the early to mid-2000s, 14 consecutive state quarterfinal appearances. That one I just happen to remember off the top of my head. Don't have the years memorized, but I know it was 14 consecutive years, roughly 90, I guess 93 or 94, all the way through, of course, the early to mid 2000s. That 1995 Parkview Panther team featured John Myers, who, of course, many of you know. He was the star quarterback and defensive back for that team. Many of you also will remember Brett Milliken. Milliken, a star running back for that Parkview team. Some of you, a few of you anyway, will remember Ansley Battles. Remember Ansley Battles? Forgot all about that kid until Brad sent me the article this week, and when I read his name, I said, oh my gosh, Ansley Battles. Completely forgot about that guy. Battles was a running back and defensive back for that Parkview team. A Parkview team that, as I mentioned, made its first appearance in the state championship game. Averaged 34 points per ball game offensively while giving up just 3 points per game defensively. Myers, of course, would go on to Georgia Tech, where he was recruited as a quarterback and would finish his career as a wide receiver. Today, he's in sales for Peachtree Packing in Atlanta. As for Milliken, of course, he finished his running back career at Parkview. Still today, he is number 5 all time in rushing yards in Georgia high school football history. And he is an associate pastor and deacon at Christ Community Church in Austin, Texas. As for Battles, he went on to continue his football career as a Vanderbilt Commodore and spent 6 years in the National Football League. Today, he's a teacher in Gwinnett County. That Parkview team, the first, as I mentioned, of 6 to reach the state championship game, where in 1995 they lost to none other than Quincy Carter and the Southwest DeKalb Panthers. Coming up next, in the What's Next portion of our program, it is, after all, awards season. The 2014-15 Positive Athlete Georgia nominations deadline came and passed last week, and now the awards selection team is combing through the nominations, the many nominations, I'll get to those numbers in just a moment, to select the winners this year. The growth of Positive Athlete Georgia, the program, is absolutely staggering. This year, over 2,000 nominations from over 150 high schools were submitted by, anyone in relation to some of these fine young scholar athletes, coaches, administrators, teachers, parents, family members, and of course fans this year. Last year's program had 600 nominations from 65 high schools. So you see that jump. That's a 250% increase in nominations. I hope that's math is right. I'll let somebody else do it for me. My wife's the mathematician after all. And listen, everyone who is nominated, all 2,000 nominees, not winners, just nominees, will receive an Atlanta Braves, a ticket to an Atlanta Braves game in 2015, as well as a ticket to the new College Football Hall of Fame in downtown Atlanta. This year, Positive Athlete will have 7 regional award shows, award ceremonies, if you will, where around 30 of the most positive athletes in the state of Georgia, the metro Atlanta area, North Atlanta, North Georgia, you name it, we're there as far as Positive Athlete Georgia, the most positive boys and girls athletes, each representing their individual sport, along with 2 coaches and a Positive High School of the Year award will be given away. These regions, by the way, and I'll go ahead and run through these because it's changed. If you follow Positive Athlete Georgia, it's changed from last year. Again, the growth is staggering. The regions this year for the ceremonies, the Cobb County Awards will be given away, Gwinnett County Awards, Atlanta Awards, which will be schools inside of 285 and in DeKalb County. The North Fulton Awards, Fulton County schools are above the 285 perimeter. The Northwest Atlanta Awards, Cherokee, Paulding, Douglas, and Bartow County schools. The North Georgia Awards, which encompasses Forsyth, Hall, Dawson, and then the South Atlanta Awards down there in what is so often known as the Southern Crescent for those of us in the sporting game, the Georgia High School sporting game. The Southern Crescent, they could also name it, South Fulton, Clayton, Henry, and Fayette County schools. Positive Athlete Georgia has also created over $10,000 in college scholarships this year. Some of the great donations that we received from some of the great philanthropic organizations across our state and the metro Atlanta area. Delta Airlines has gotten involved, Gwinnett Medical Center, choices2u.com, Northside Hospital, Chattahoochee Technical College, LGE Community Credit Union, too many for me to name here on the All Sports Report, Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, Loud Security Systems, College Planning Institute, Cobb EMC. Again, 7 award shows, and I'm going to run down through the schedule for you here just really, really quick. On April 22nd, the Cobb County Awards. April 24th, the Northwest Georgia Awards. April 27th, the North Georgia Awards. On the 28th, the South Atlanta Awards. North Fulton Awards will be on May 5th. Then we'll take a little break. Thank goodness, because the month of May is, of course, the championship May that we've been talking about so often here on the All Sports Report. We'll take ourselves a break and then come back for the Positive Athlete Georgia State Awards. That will be June 2nd. June 2nd, the overall state awards. Trust me, you're going to want to be there for that. We will, of course, preview that as we get closer to the award, how you can get tickets, how you can contribute to the affair. That award show, the state award show, will be at the College Football Hall of Fame this year. Last year it was at McCamish Pavilion. It was a great honor of mine to be involved in the organization with guys like Brian Jordan, Homer Rice of Georgia Tech fame, of course Hines Ward, who was an integral part of the process, Brian Finneran, and of course I co-hosted the gig with one of my idols, Bob Rathbun from the Hawks, so that was quite an honor, of course. Again, that will culminate Tuesday. The entire awards season will culminate Tuesday, June 2nd, at the College Football Hall of Fame for the statewide Georgia Positive High School Athlete Awards, where 30 of the most positive high school athletes from across the metro Atlanta area and the state of Georgia, representing their individual sports, will be honored. Again, we will also honor 2 coaches and a high school for their positive contributions as well. All in all, a banner year for Positive Athlete Georgia. Just in its 2nd year here in the Empire State of the South, it has already surpassed the size of its predecessor in Pittsburgh, which of course had a 3-year head start. Coming up next, in the My Take portion of our program, it's time now to get into the subject that so many of you want to talk about. It's time to talk about the spring executive committee meetings for the GHSA. What rules are they looking to change? What rules are they looking to tweak? And inevitably, what rules will they ignore and leave the same? We'll talk about it next in My Take. I do truly believe the next statement. I believe it with all of my heart. I don't think I'm being overly hyperbolic as a broadcaster when I say that this year's version of the spring GHSA Executive Committee meetings in Macon on Monday afternoon, by the way, the 13th, one of the biggest in this state's history. And I want to commend the GHSA outwardly, openly, and honestly for addressing some very important subjects, storylines that were very controversial in the state of Georgia's high school sporting landscape here in 2014-15. You know, it wasn't quite like the National Football League. We all know it was a tough year for the Duke, the commissioner, for their rules, for their governing body, for their discipline of the breaking of rules, and the analysis of some of the rules that were kind of taken advantage of by certain people this year. Now, obviously, for the GHSA, it wasn't that type of year, but having said that, there were 3 absolute subjects and storylines that were controversial this year, galvanizing moments that were highly focused upon, for lack of a better phrase, by the media, coaches, administrators, fans, family members, and of course, players alike. So I want to talk about those 3 subjects here really quick, and I'm going to spend some time reading verbatim from the rules that have been submitted or the potential changes. Like, first of all, follow me on this one if you will. I'm going to be quite a smart aleck here in about 15 seconds. The student was enrolled in a private school or a magnet school and has a bona fide move from one public school service area to another public school service area. A student in this situation may attend either the public school or a private school serving his area of residence. One more time, because you're not going crazy. The student was enrolled in a private school or a magnet school and has a bona fide move from one public school service area to another public school service area. A student in this situation may attend either the public school or a private school that services his area of residence. And so now you say to yourself, wait a minute, did I hear that correctly? Basically, they're saying that a kid attends either a private school or public school, moves to another area. The move is okay by the GHSA, the school, whomever governs this, and now that kid has the right to go to the public school that services his area or a private school that services his area. This is a proposal? You say to yourself, if this is the proposal, what's the rule? Because of course this should be the way it is. Why is this not the way it is? Exactly. And that is why, if you remember the case of Demetrius Robertson, now of Savannah Christian Academy, now you wonder, now you know why there was so much controversy in regards to his transferring at the beginning of the Georgia high school football season, because that is not the rule as it is currently constituted in the GHSA Constitution. Now, I'm going to do something really unorthodox. I'm not even going to go through the actual rule as it is in the rule book right now, except for to tell you that currently, if you're attending one private school, there are certain stipulations as to the rules in transferring to another private school. Look, and I'm going to say this firmly and with a little bit of attitude, and I freely admit that. If a kid's moving from one service area, private or public, to another service area, private or public, if the move has been okayed, it's what they call a bona fide move by the GHSA, the county school body, and the school. I'm sorry, there should not be any rule of where that kid can attend, whether he's transferring from a private school to another private school or not. As long as he's in that service area, that kid should be able to play wherever he wants. Of course, it was one of the bigger stories, the first big story of the 2014-15 GHSA calendar year. And again, I commend the Georgia High School Association for addressing it here in the spring committee meetings. Here's another one for you, and this is a lighter subject. I'll go to a lighter subject and then back to a kind of a heavy subject here in a moment. The GHSA, and firmly I believe you should expect this rule to be tweaked. The rule, what will be known as the Wheeler rule. We all know Wheeler won the state championship in the 6A classification, and then of course there was that story, last month, where they were not allowed to play in New York in that national basketball tournament. It is kind of the de facto national basketball tournament, recognized widely now as the crown jewel of national high school basketball, where they will crown a national champion. 8 teams are invited from across the state. Across the country, pardon me. Of course, there's a rule that says that Georgia high school basketball teams are not allowed to play in these tournaments. Some have in the past violated that rule. It is what it is. They're going to tweak the rule. This is the right move. It's an antiquated rule at best. And so I expect the GHSA to not make it wide open, by the way. That's something I'm not a proponent of. Expect them to not make the rule wide open where teams can just go and play in any basketball tournament they want to after the playoffs are over. Expect for them to specify that teams, if invited to a national championship tournament, if they're invited to a national championship tournament, they should be allowed to participate. Now back to another heavy subject. There is a proposal to require the host school, and I'm going to go ahead and read this verbatim too because I think it's well worded. A proposal to require a host school to provide a paid adult hired by that school or the school district to maintain the official scorebook and electronic clock/scoreboard at all basketball games. Now, of course, this is in regards to one of the really ugly subjects and storylines of the 2014-15 GHSA sporting calendar. And of course, it's in regards to the 2A GHSA basketball boys tournament as Swainsboro beat Holy Innocents in said tournament. I saw Swainsboro too. I called their last ball game of the year down in Columbus in the state semifinals. Swainsboro goes on to beat Holy Innocents in overtime in a ball game where Swainsboro won by the scant of margins. And what's important about this is that during a particular possession, Swainsboro was given an extra point. Late third quarter, early fourth quarter, you'll forgive me for forgetting, but Swainsboro was given an extra point in the ball game. And again, this was a tournament basketball game that ended up going into overtime. So you can see the ramifications, the repercussions. Choose your adjective, choose your adverb. You can see why this was very disappointing. This is not a parent who was just causing controversy now, by the way. There was visual evidence that confirmed that there was an extra point that was given to Swainsboro. And a lot of people complained that part of the reason this happened was because there was a school administrator, or I'm not even sure who was managing the books, or the scorebook, the score clock, the scoreboard, but it wasn't a GHSA official. So they're going to address that. Expect that one to be changed as well. Really quickly, want to talk about another really light subject that I know a lot of people are firmly behind now. They're talking about moving the state baseball championships to a centralized, neutral location. Love, love, love this rule. Please, I'm begging you, as a broadcaster and a fan, to do this. It'll put them all in one location. I think it's smart for the GHSA. One thing they've been trying to do for years is to streamline the championships, save the GHSA as an organization money, also to make it easier for fans and friends and family, administrators and schools to travel. Yes, you may not get to host a championship, but you also won't necessarily have to go from one clear end of the state to the other clear end of the state, because as we know, many of these championships are centralized in very convenient locations, like say a Macon or somewhere like that, Atlanta, where everybody can travel to. So love, love, love this rule. Expect that if this one does not get changed this year, I firmly believe that this will at least be addressed in the very near future and changed sometime really, really soon. Okay, until next week, we'll start to talk about, preview the playoffs for certain sports across the state, and of course, we'll talk about one of the defining days in the history of Georgia high school athletics. This Monday meeting, the Spring Executive Committee meeting on the 13th, we'll have a recap of everything that came out from Macon. Until next week, I'm Chris Mooneyham for the TCA All Sports Report.